It is on time and it is on budget, so good news story all round.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay, lovely. There are 3 recommendations. They're on page 35. And I ask the Executive to approve them as written on page 35. Lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item tonight is the Treasury Management Mid-Year Report 2017 to 2018. It's agenda item 80 and it's on page 41. And again, this report is Councillor McGee-Summers.
This report is comprehensive and follows its normal presentational form. It is anticipated that the Council will exceed its investment return and no loans have been taken out during the 6 months to the 30th of September 2017. There have been no breaches to the Treasury strategy as at the 30th of September 2017, so the team have worked hard within the context of all the indicators that we've set.
Thank you very much indeed. Any questions? Okay. The page where the recommendations set out is page 41. There are 4 recommendations to note. May I ask all the Executive to approve this item? Thank you very much indeed. Okay. The next item is agenda item number 81. It's the Chief Finance Officer's report. Again, it's over to Councillor McGee-Summers. It's on page 67.
Thank you, Chairman. The summary of the report highlights Woking is again the lowest funded unitary authority in the country. Always like to get that in, and I know Blue always appreciates that. We are in the 3rd year of the 4-year settlement. The settlement imposes triple taxation on our residents. The government have recognised the need to look at fairer funding option to replace the negative RSG. There will also be a new funding methodology for 2020-21 and beyond. We must make our representation strongly, and we are doing at the moment. Revenue Support Grant is the main grant received from central government. This is reduced from 6.1 million in 2016-17 to 0.2 million, so it puts into context this financial year, and 0 in 18-19, and will be negative unless we win our arguments with government in 2019-20 to the tune of £7.1 million. This will have to be paid from business rates. Woking Council taxpayers contribute a higher percentage of their overall council tax spending than any other unitary authority and receives the lowest settlements, which by way of comparison is half the funding level of the other 3 Berkshire authorities. This report identifies some of the most significant financial risks faced by this council, but I hope you'll support it this evening.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you, Councillor Lee.
Well, the first one is an observation, just picking up from page 75. When you first look at the graph at the top of the page, it looks as though we're doing pretty well, but what it actually means is we are the biggest loser on that respect.
Exactly.
And could I just ask, please, if you are could confirm that they are continuing to lobby because of this fact? And especially bearing in mind that we're going into the negative situation and we're not retaining, as has been often talked about, 100% of business rates. But out of 60 million, we'll be keeping, I think, about 6 million. So are we continuing our lobbying of the government?
We are continuing lobbying the government. We've met with the Prime Minister, we've met with various other sort of ministers. We are making our representations and will continue to do so. John Redwood has been very supportive to us in this regard, and he's also lobbying ministers on our behalf. So whilst we don't have a fantastic record of changing government's decisions, we are quietly confident that we will generate some change in this.
You're optimistic.
I am. I'm always optimistic.
Also, I'd like to point to page 97. There's a consultation on the local government financial settlement for 2018 to 19. There's a letter to the Ministry of Housing, Community and Local Government, formerly the DCLG. This letter has also been sent to John Redwood, Theresa May and Dr Philip Lee MP, and also perhaps Councillor Croy would like to write to Matt Rodder as well, and maybe some of our independent members would also like to raise it with...
have you listened to it?
No, I was hoping that maybe you would like to raise it raise it with him as well, and independent and Lib Dem members could also raise the situation that we're in at the moment, because all of the lobbying that we can do makes a strong case for us. Any other questions?
No, thank you. Good night.
I go much stronger than that. I actually think it's that it's taking locally raised money and using it for national funds, and I think that's inappropriate. Fully support you.
Thank you. Indeed, there's, as you'll see from the report, in the next year we start to go into negative revenue support, where we start to hand back our business rates, and which will get redistributed around the country to other local authorities. The recommendations for this report are set out on page 67. There are 2 recommendations. I'd like to ask members to show their hands if they support the recommendations. Thank you very much indeed. Unanimous. The next agenda item is item 82, and it's on page 99. It's the 21st Century Council update report, and I'll hand over to John Willie Sumner.
Thank you, Chairman. I think people will be getting fed up with my voice. Don't all yell at once. 21st Century Council progress is reported on a quarterly basis. The areas of environment, income and assessments and customer service are the focus, with the HR process and the service design are progressing well. There has been a delay in starting the programme in people services whilst the new interim director assesses adults and children's services, and as I've said earlier on, it's really important that we get this this review underway quickly, but we make the right decisions for people in our borough and we get it right first time. This will reduce the savings for 2018-19, although they are expected to be made, are reflected in the 2019-20 medium term financial plan, but I do recommend this to members.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Councillor Jorgensen.
Yes, it mentions on page 100 the top engagement members. I just wonder how towns and parishes can get involved in this process.
Very good point and very good question. Thank you very much. We're engaging with the towns and parishes and have our next meeting on the 5th of February with the Towns and Parishes Working Group. And my colleague sat at the back is sort of chairing that meeting, Councillor Firmager. So we do keep them updated, and we do engage with them to get their ideas and opinions.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Okay, thank you. The recommendation is to note the progress in implementing the 21st Century Council programme. So if you would like to approve this, please place your hands up now. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, the next item on the agenda tonight is item 83. It's on page 105, and it's the shareholders' report, and again it's Councillor McGee-Sumner.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, it's not a joke or a nightmare, but it's getting close. At a high level, the housing group has become well established, and will see Woking Housing handing over 125 new homes in the financial year to its sister companies Loddon and Berrywood Homes. It will also generate a profit for this local authority of 1.1 million. Year on year, we are expected to deliver 50 to 70 homes per year, with the ongoing profits pushed back into this local authority. So hopefully a good news story. There are no major financial issues to highlight. I do draw your attention to Woking Housing Group's Roundup report for 2017, which goes into much more detail on what has been a very successful year for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Any questions? Councillor Baker.
Yes, on page 108 it talks about Phoenix, and I assume the whole site has now been handed over. Many of those tenants will have been there for some time, so could you provide an update on that development from a tenant's perspective? Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Yes, all the final houses have been handed over to the tenants. I've actually visited 4 or 5 of the tenants myself, and actually been around their properties. They're absolutely thrilled with it. They are a good size, they're in a good location, and to be honest, once the first tenants moved in and spoke to other tenants, we just didn't have enough to give them. So if we kind of replicate that, we'll have quite a lot of happy tenants.
Madam Chairman, can I just add something to that? There are plans actually to have a formal celebration with residents, and there's something I'm really looking forward to, because I'm sure the residents have really, really enjoyed moving into their new homes. Of course, there are going to be some snagging issues like with any new home, but yeah, there's going to be a celebration.
Great news, thank you. Any other questions? No, okay. Just need to advise the executive tonight that Councillor Keith Baker stepped down from the position of non-executive director of Optilis at the end of November, and Optilis have just appointed Councillor Philip Murphy to replace him as the non-executive director. So the recommendations for this paper are set out on page 105. There are 2 recommendations the executive are asked to note. For all those who approve the recommendations as set out on the paper, please can you raise your arm? Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Next agenda item is number 84. It's on page 115, and it's the bus service 12 Woodley Early, and the Council Registry is
And all services resumed, highways are back, getting more questions, etc. This is to do with the new service to link Woodley Early and Reading. A lot of what is in this report has been covered already by questions from the public and from councillors. So I'm not intending to repeat those sorts of things, but the one thing I would like to absolutely make crystal clear, we are not asking for a specific route to be duplicated. That would be nonsense. We're asking for core facilities like peak hour, like getting to the RBH, like having decent lengths of journeys, etc., and leave it to the tendering bus operators to come up with their most creative and cost-effective ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Any questions? Councillor Yawson?
Excuse me, I've got a phone in the throat. You have mentioned it a couple of times. I'm pleased to hear that we're not going to be too specific on the routes. So presumably then you're going to be seeking sort of varied bids and asking questions around that. Would that include things like frequency of service and that sort of thing? Will we get that sort of information back as part of the process?
Absolutely. Within the paper you'll see that one of the core requirements is an hourly service between 7 and 7. So that information will come back, and who knows, peak hours, some of them may well say we'll do a half an hour during. You don't know. That's the flexibility we need to build in.
Thank you very much. Do you have any other questions?
So it's more of a point, I suppose. You referred to it again earlier in one of the answers to questions, but I would just like to ask you really about the cooperation of the town councils and the input of the Maiden Early Residents Association, North Early Residents Association, sort of important service for the residents and how they were engaged. I think you've covered a fair bit of that already, but just in this part of the meeting I'd just like to put that on record, please.
Thank you, Councillor Jorgensen. In fact, I think, from memory, and I've been involved in highways in one way or another for over 10 years, I think it's the first time we've ever had that sort of cooperation between two town councils on consultation like this, and it's worked extremely well. And what's good about it is that the Borough Council have taken cognizance of what came out of that. It was not dismissed, they participated in it and have actually taken that output. So hopefully this is a good trend for the future, not just in this area, but other areas where town councils can work together to provide a combined commentary on a particular consultation.
Thank you. Councillor Zielinski?
Thank you. I had a series of questions lined up, but Councillor Baker's answered them all. But I just want Councillor Baker just to reinforce the thanks to the residents and everybody that actually took part in the consultation.
Thank you. No other questions? Okay, thank you. The recommendations, there are two recommendations set out on page 115. All those in favour, please show your hands. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Next agenda item is item 85 on page 135. It's the Public Protection Partnership fees and charges. And I pass over to Councillor Wilson.
Okay, thank you very much. There are two elements to this report. Firstly, a proposed revision to our fees for dog boarding licences in this financial year. The current charge is £371 for the issue of the licence. This did seem rather high, and we have reviewed the amount of time that we spend assessing each application and whether we could do it with less effort. We have decided that the number of visits we undertake can be reduced from 2 per year to 1, and renewals also take less time than first applications, so a differential rate is proposed between the two. So it's therefore proposed to charge £265 for a first application and £185 for a renewal. These are about 5-6% increase on last year's rates. These rates will be increased in line with other increases in charges in future years as per the paper. The second part of the paper sets out the proposed charges for Woking Borough residents for services provided by the Public Protection Partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. I'm sure that everybody who has written in about this will be very relieved and welcome the new charges. Thank you very much indeed. So the recommendations are on page 135. There are 2 recommendations. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. The next agenda item is number 86. It's on page 147. It's the Woodley car parking trial. Again, over to Councillor Keith Baker.
Thank you. Again, I think we've covered pretty well everything on the car parking trial through the questions. I'm just obviously as a Woodley resident, I'm very pleased that the combined recommendation from Woodley Town Council, the TCMI and local councils was actually accepted. I think the Borough Council was very good that they were willing to move away from the one-size-fits-all. Again, that doesn't often happen, so that's really, really good. And the success is clear to see. That's all I need to say.
Thank you very much indeed. Any questions? No? Okay. Thank you. The recommendations are set up on page 147. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. And note your abstention because of your interest. Thank you. The next paper this evening is agenda item number 87. It's the Berkshire Pension Fund pooling, and it's on page 153. And I'm going to hand over to Councillor McGeeson on that.
Thank you, Chairman. This matter is really, it is a government requirement that the local government funds must join the investment pool by April 2018. The aim is really to achieve economies of scale and efficiencies, but it's something that is being imposed upon us, so it's rather routine, but we do have to vote on it, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much indeed. The recommendations on page 153. Can I ask for all of those in favour? Thank you very much indeed, unanimous. Okay, the next agenda item is 88, and it's on page 161. It's the appropriation of land within the approved alignment of the Northern Distributor Road for planning purposes. I'm going to hand over to Councillor Lee.
Thank you. This is all about the section of the Northern Distributor Road, which is going to be on Belfoundry Lane. Belfoundry Lane is just one of these sections, and if anyone who's travelled that, you will know there's a very, very bad bend in that. That bend is going to be reduced by taking a small section out of Cantley Field. It will not in any way impact upon the playing facilities, but it will make that corner much safer. And I think the other thing just to note on this, that we're still going to continue to have a green route along there. The development on the other side of the Belfoundry Lane allows us to actually retain all the trees which border Cantley. Unfortunately, if we had not had that, we would have had to maybe remove some of those trees. So that is what's happening there. It is part of the Northern Distributor Road. It's one of the 5 new roads we're building at £124 million. They do unfortunately take some time to actually work their way through the system. And what we're asked for tonight is the approval of that appropriation of that bit of land. It is something which statutorily we have to do because Cantley is held for one reason and we are transferring it for another reason. I would reiterate that we're not losing any of the playing field at all. Any questions?
Councillor Ashmore.
Thank you, Chairman. I know you've reiterated this several times, but as president of Woking and Embrook Football Club, I'm looking you in the eye and saying we're not going to lose any football pitches or spectator accommodation, please.
No, we are not. And in addition to that, there will be actually, when you see the actual, if you haven't seen the plan, there will be a footpath running inside that, which will be a safe cycle route along that route. But I think we have talked before about football facilities, and you know that we have different ideas. Well, we have ideas about that, how we can actually improve that overall for the benefit of this borough.
We'll work that out offline. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or queries? The recommendations.
Sorry, just before you do it, just to satisfy this man over here, not only are we not losing any playing facilities there, but as you well know, we have a new major centre at Grace Farm, which will add additional capacity. So hopefully that will allay all your fears. Sorry. Leader.
Nice to see a bit of debate.
We can carry on.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, the recommendations are set out on page 161, 2 recommendations. All those in favour of the recommendations? Thank you very much indeed. Okay. The next agenda is item 89. It's on page 171. It's the Ruscombe Neighbourhood Plan Area Designation. And I can hand over to Councillor Lee for that.
This is something which a number of places have done, actually put a neighbourhood plan in place. And I'm delighted that Ruscombe have undertaken this, and I would love to see this follow through. It will, of course, I think as Simon mentioned earlier on in an answer to a question, any building that they take in Ruscombe, they will get 25% of the SIL. So I'm sure that that might well be of interest to the parish council in that area. The neighbourhood plan will actually help in our planning policy in terms of what is built, where it's built, the quality, etc. But it is always subservient to the core plan of the borough. Any questions?
If there are no questions, then we'll go through the recommendations, which are on page 171. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. The next item is agenda item 90. It's on page 183, Local Discretionary Rate Relief Scheme. And it's Councillor McGee-Sumner.
Thank you, Chairman. Local authorities are required to establish a scheme for business rate relief for businesses facing large increases in the business rates bill following the 2017 revaluations. The funds allocated to Woking Borough Council are £399,000 for 2017-18, tapering down to £11,000 for 2020-21. To qualify, businesses must have a rateable value below £200,000 and be facing an increase of business rates of more than 12.5%. 3 schemes have been considered and a fixed grant was felt to be the best approach. The initial grant recommendation is for £700 for each eligible property. Happy to take any questions, Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Weeks?
Yep. Could you just clarify whether this is automatically granted or whether they have to apply for it?
They will have to apply for it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No, okay. The recommendations are set out on page 183. All those in favour of the recommendations? Unanimous. The last agenda item is item 91. Just a reminder that this item does have a part 2, so I will need to exclude the press and public should you wish to ask any questions on the part 2 papers, which are in pink in the agenda. Thank you very much. Just a reminder, Norman has declared interest in his evening. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Councillor Weeks.
Okay, thank you. This report has been widely, I think, been plenty of briefings on it, but if I could quickly try and summarise the main points. that recycling in Wokingham needs to improve from approximately 40% to 50%. And the council is facing significant penalties by 2020, which is going to come around very quickly if we don't improve our recycling rates. Blue bags that are used by residents for residual waste currently contain 30% on average of food waste. So providing a food waste service will obviously take a significant amount of food out of the residual chain, and will of course indirectly will also create greater space in the blue bags for residents to use. We're proposing to introduce a food waste collection scheme weekly that would involve households being delivered 2 food caddies, plastic caddies, one which they would typically keep in the kitchen under the sink where they would put their food residue into, and then on periodically that will be emptied into a larger caddy which would then be put out on the curbside with the blue bags and black boxes for conventional recycling. We believe this would take approximately half of the food waste out of the current residual waste collection, and that would boost our recycling rates to between 47 and 48%. Recycling currently costs £60 a tonne, whereas dealing with general waste costs us £170 a tonne, so there's clearly a big incentive as well in terms of savings. The caddies would be provided by WBC. As I say, I would stress they would be collected weekly. There would be new vehicles involved in collecting these, and the same vehicle will collect the food waste, the black box recycling, and the blue bags. I just stress that the optional garden waste scheme that a number of households are involved in, that will continue to be operated quite separately from this. The additional cost of introducing a food waste scheme, as you will have seen from the accompanying papers, would be in the region of £500,000, and this would also save us in the region of £500,000 in terms of disposal costs. So it's pretty well cost neutral. In addition, of course, the upside is that hopefully with an improved level of recycling, we wouldn't face the unpredictable penalties for not getting our recycling levels up to the current level. Happy to take any questions.
Okay. Start with Councillor Monroe.
What I look at this, I think it's great. I just want to say a couple of things. One is it's great to see we're returning our weekly collections. Great that we're looking at increasing the recycling. What proportion take-up of the food waste collection are you taking into account in your numbers?
Okay. We've looked at this in conjunction with where food waste has already been introduced in other areas, and we estimate that after the bedding period that it will be 50% of households will participate. Clearly, if significantly more than 50% participate, there will be upside for both the environment and for the council. Should that not be the case, the waste contractor is offering levels of guarantees to underwrite if we don't meet some of this, and those are detailed, the numbers are detailed in the big papers.
Thank you. Councillor Zielinski.
Thank you. I'm sure our wildlife would enjoy these caddies without lids. So can you just confirm that these caddies are going to come with lids?
Well, what I can confirm is that for residents that participate in the proposed scheme, there will be no incentive for rats, foxes, cats, or anybody passing by to delve into the blue bags to see whether there's any food waste in there, because it will all be in the caddy, and therefore the bags will be less prone to being attacked. The bin, the actual caddy itself, has a handle on it, and as you lift the handle, it locks the lid in place. So the caddy is in fact sealed, so something can't get at it. So 2 advantages: the food is contained in something that vermin can't get at, and as a result of residents participating in it, the blue bags should be less likely to be attacked in some of the more rural areas.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Thank you. I refer to the chart on 189. In recent weeks, when an authority down in Wales has moved to, I believe, monthly waste collection, I think it's staggering that a council so underfunded, as one of the lowest funding authorities in the country, can not only maintain our weekly bin collection, but can also add extra services like food waste. I think that is absolutely to be applauded to all involved, and our residents, I'm sure, recognise that they're in the best place to do it.
Just in response to that, Keith, I think the whole point about this is it's going to be good for everybody. It's very difficult to have a negative slant on this, and I would certainly encourage all members to emphasise that we will be keeping weekly waste collections. Unlike, I think it's the North Wales authorities who say it's moved to monthly, which I'm sure will be well received by its residents. And I think also we're very much reliant on all parties involved to encourage as many residents as possible to participate in the scheme.
Thank you. Any other questions? No.
Perhaps I'll just add finally, my only regret is that as you will see from the papers, these schemes have big lead-in times in terms of getting the necessary equipment and so on. This is just to stress we're proposing to increase this in 2019, introduce this in 2019. I regret that it can't be sooner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Weeks. A great news story, and I'm sure that our residents, when it starts to be rolled out, will benefit greatly from this, and I hope that we'll take up as really strong. The recommendations, there are 4 of them, are set out on page 187. All of those executive members that approve of recommendations, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you all very much, and good evening. And thank you.